Hello and welcome to this demo on the second part of Input Methods and Input Activities. Here, we'll be creating automation to deposit a transaction in the WI application. We'll be using Type Into and Click Activities to accomplish this. And along the way, we'll learn how to use these activities in detail. We've already set up the Use Application or Browser activity to open our target application. Now in this session, we'll be picking up right where we left off and continue building our automation process. Let's get back to it. As the next step, we'll be automating the process of entering data in the Cash In and On Us Check fields, and then clicking the Submit button to complete the transaction. So let's add a Type Into activity. Type Into activity enables us to enter text into a specified UI element, such as a text box or any input field. It's important to note that this activity must be added inside of a Use Application or Browser activity. Let's start by indicating the Cash In input field and confirm our selection. We have several ways of adding strings to the Type This field. For example, we can enter it directly into the field, or use the Open Editor option by right-clicking. Here we have two options, Standard and Secure String. Standard is meant for normal text, while Secure String is meant for passwords. For our demo, we'll be using the Standard Text option. Moving further, the Empty Field feature allows us to decide whether to delete the existing content before typing. It's set to single line by default. When set to none, existing content won't be deleted. Multi-line deletes content from a text field with multiple lines, while single line deletes content from a text field with only one line. Click Before Typing lets us choose whether to click the UI element before typing. It's helpful when certain fields need to be clicked to become active. By default, it is single. It won't click before typing if it's set to none. Single click executes a single click before typing, while double click executes a double click before typing. Important points to note here. The empty field before typing property is not relevant when using the Simulate Input mode for an activity or parent app card, as it will always replace any existing text before typing. That's why we see these options under Options, Hardware Events, /Chromium API. The Click Before Typing property is relevant for hardware events and for Chromium API input modes. It's not taken into account for all other input methods. Moving on to the Properties panel of the Type Into activity. Most of the properties are the same as the Use Application or Browser activity. We'll see the ones that are different. Delay Before is used to delay, in seconds, the execution of this activity from the last activity, while Delay After is used to delay, in seconds, the next activity after it's completed. Let's move directly to the Options section. Here, we can choose the different input mode from the application or browser card, or we can even keep the same as application. By setting this property to same as app or browser, the child activity inherits the input mode of its parent, the Use Application browser card. If it's set to a different input mode, the child activity can have a different input mode than the parent. This allows for more flexibility in how user input is handled within the application. With Type Into activity, we can set Auto Set the correct input method. It tests each input method one by one to ensure that the expected text was typed correctly. The checks are performed in the following order: Chromium API, Simulate, Windows Messages, and Hardware Events. If any of them work properly, they stop the process and set the method. Now let's see what the Activate property does. If the Activate property is set to true, it brings the specified UI element to the foreground and it activates it before text is typed in. But what is the foreground? The foreground refers to the active window or application that's currently in focus and receiving input from the user. Activate property is enabled by default, and it's only applicable for hardware and Chromium API input method. Here's an example. We have two applications open, a Notepad and a WI app. Let's run the workflow. The WI application is brought to the foreground and text is typed. Now we have an overview of all of the properties of Type Into activity. Next, we'll add another Type Into activity for the On Us Check input field. Let's add a click activity to accept the deposit transaction. Here, we have two new options for our click activity. The first option is Click Type. With this, we can select the type of click to perform, single, double, down, or up. The default option is single. The second option is Mouse Button. With this, we can select the mouse button to click with, left, middle, or right. The default option is left. Now that we've added all of the required activities, let's check out the background mode. This process was running in the background. Great! This concludes our demo on input methods and activities. In the next video, we'll complete this automation by retrieving the transaction number and displaying it through Message Box. Now here's a challenge for you. Find 5 more input activities and learn about their unique properties. Thanks for watching and happy automation!